Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Khalid. But today is Thursday, the 12th of October, 2023. These are the stories that we'll try to decipher during the course of our show. We'll begin, ladies and gentlemen, with the visit of international media to Janawala, where they inspected the churches that have been renovated after the incident that had happened some time back. The government of Pakistan has initiated this huge project, and of course the foreign media and the foreign media representatives were taken to Janawala to show the progress that had been made as far as the reconstruction of these churches is concerned. This is going to be our first story. Our next story concerns the situation in Palestine that is developing with every day that passes. Ladies and gentlemen, the Israeli bombing has killed nearly 1,400, injured over 6,000. This is a staggering amount, and by the way things are going, this doesn't show any sign of abating. Over 339,000 Palestinians have been displaced in Gaza. Israel's Gaza strikes, as per the United Nations, amount to collective punishment. We will be discussing different angles to this very, very important issue that is polarizing the entire world in our second story. Then we'll be talking about Narendra Modi and his India, where media is not only being clamped upon, but those journalists who are trying to say the truth are being labeled as traitors and terrorists. Arundhati Roy, for example, is to be punished over a speech that was made in 2010 over Kashmir. 154 journalists, ladies and gentlemen, have been arrested, interrogated, mostly in the year 2020. 7 are behind bars as we speak. 9 foreign journalists also face deportation. We all remember the BBC documentary also, and how the reaction came from the Indian side after that. Then, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to talk about Pakistan Army that has won the silver medal in the Cambrian Patrol in Wales and in the United Kingdom. Of course, its performance remained outstanding amongst 113 teams which participated from across the world. Then we are going to talk about debris and human remains from the Titan sub that was found on the Atlantic, and of course that has been received. There are apparently some human remains over there as well. We all remember that there were 2 Pakistanis aboard that vessel that imploded. In fact, the deaths occurred within milliseconds. This is what a lot of people are saying as well. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to talk about NASA. We know that the world, the universe, the ultimate frontier. Let's talk and discuss today's lineup, and we'll begin with the visit to Janawala of a lot of media representatives from international media agencies that were taken by the government of Pakistan to Janawala to show the progress that had been made as far as the churches that had been vandalized a couple of months back, and now they have been restored to their original place. The reconstruction of these churches also reflects the rights of minorities and the freedom of worship by the government of Pakistan, unlike unfortunately what we see in our neighborhood of India. 10 international media representatives visited these churches of Janawala today. These include representatives from the AFP, the BBC, the Washington Post, Russia Today, DPA, and La Croix in France. In addition, representatives from the Anadolu News Agency in Turkey, the NHK in Japan, and Arab News were also included in this delegation. They were shown around Janawala during the entire course of the day, and they also interviewed a lot of people, a lot of locals from Janawala, who told them about all the activity that has been done by the government post this incident that happened in Janawala. This is also a proof of the determination of the government of Pakistan. As you can see, everything is open, whether you want to go to Azad Jammu and Kashmir and see what is happening there, or whether you want to go to Janawala and look at how the government has moved things across to rehabilitate, to reconstruct the churches and to take care of the minorities, is proof enough as far as Pakistan is concerned vis-a-vis our not so friendly neighborhood in India. And of course, the government of Pakistan, as I have always told you, is committed to provide all rights and facilities to the minorities and trying to remedy any untoward incident. The white in our flag represents the minorities, and we try to uphold that as much as we can. Let's come to our next, and that concerns Palestine, Israel, the atrocities, the number of injured and the dead that is increasing with every passing day. Also, the fact that Gaza, which is a small area, a small enclave housing around 2.3 million people, is now facing a shortage of food and water. And this is what the Israeli side says. It is not going to provide more food and water until and unless they relent to the demands that have been made by the Israeli side. More in the following report.
The security situation in Middle East is worsening as Israel's complete siege of Gaza Strip is further worsening the already dire humanitarian situation. The people of Palestine have been suffering from the worst Israeli brutalities since long. With the latest bombing, the number of Palestinians killed in Gaza has gone over 1,350 according to the Palestinian Health Ministry, which added that more than 6,000 people have been injured. Israel has also ruled out electricity, fuel, or humanitarian aid into Gaza until Hamas releases all captives. Officials in Gaza said the collapse of the health system has truly begun amid Israel's heavy bombardment and complete blockade. At this point of the time, Palestinians need the support of international community, Muslim world, and the United Nations. Pakistan's Foreign Office spokesperson Mumtaz Zahra Baloch has said that Islamabad strongly condemns the indiscriminate use of force by the Israeli authorities against civilian population in Gaza. Pakistan has called for an immediate cessation of hostilities and indiscriminate bombings. Addressing the weekly press briefing in Islamabad, the spokesperson said that Pakistan is deeply concerned about the dire humanitarian situation in Gaza due to the blockade and collective punishment by Israeli forces. Israel must allow unhindered access of humanitarian aid to Palestinian people. She said Pakistan urges the United Nations to play a proactive role in facilitating ceasefire to alleviate the humanitarian situation in Gaza. The Palestinian people are enduring deprivation of their fundamental rights and the loss of their homeland.
To discuss this very important issue that, as I said in the very beginning of the show, has polarized the world even more than what the Ukraine-Russia conflict did. We've been joined by two guests in the studio. Let me introduce them to you one by one. On my very right is Brigadier retired Waqar Hassan Khan. He's a senior analyst. Thank you very much to have joined us and to have come to the studios after a very long hiatus as far as my show is concerned. So welcome to Newsroom. Our second guest is Agha Iqrar Haroon. He's a senior analyst and a regular on my shows. Agha Saab, welcome to our show. It's always a pleasure to have you in our studios. Let's begin with you, Brigadier Saab. These increase in the number of fatalities, in the number of the injured. There is a grave humanitarian crisis as far as we speak, as far as Gaza is concerned particularly. Where do you see this crisis heading?
I think looking at the genesis, which is very important, as far as Gaza is concerned, the last 16 years, it is a declared open prison with, as you mentioned, 2.3 million people crammed within a space of, it's like 12 by 30, so it's like 350 square kilometers, I think less than Islamabad space. And in terms of human rights, in terms of economic rights, they are very limited actually. So literally it's an open prison where people are basically, let's say, contained and oppressed. And then you have settlements, even on the day of, I think, attack on 7th October, there was a party going on, very close to Gaza. On one side we have poverty, and there's been a consistent pattern of Israel. Anytime there is, I would say, now this is the fourth intifada actually. So you had three earlier, so more political, and gradually they became more militarized. And this was, I would say, one of the, I think, hardest hit that Israel has taken. It has dented its credibility, intelligence, as well as the military. But coming to the point that this has been a consistent pattern, and nobody, I would say, gave much importance. There was talk of normalization, Abraham Accord, these corridors passing through like India, Middle East, Israel, and Europe. And I think Palestinians felt very strongly that probably now they are totally sidelined and nobody is going to listen. So they have to come up with a strategy, whatever. I mean, you may call it a desperate measure that it brings in the international community. I think that they have achieved. International community had to, despite there is heavy loss, I think the Palestinians are going to suffer a lot. So
and continue to suffer as we speak at this very second.
Yeah, exactly. And the way I think Israeli leadership, backed up by the US, I think Mr. Blinken is already there, and he's even said that we'll send a second aircraft carrier, which was I think counterbalanced by Putin, who said, what are you doing with aircraft carrier, because you're not a party per se. So the statement by the Israeli defense minister, dehumanizing Palestinians, he said basically they are human animals and we'll shut down everything, water, electricity, it never happens even in war, So I think this is basically dehumanization, and it's a consistent pattern. The world has now, I think, totally polarized. You have basically Western Bloc, India on one side, and by and large, I would say, developing world, Russia, Iran, Turkey, and some of the members of the OIC, at least morally on the other side, not physically. Now we are also looking at two more fronts, chances of two more fronts opening. One is Syria, because Syria was hit by Israel a day before 6th October. The military academy was I don't know why Israel would incite violence. And now there are some modern artillery duels taking place across Golan Heights. I think they've already moved some of the forces, the Iranian backed militias from Deir Zor. Now they're coming to, either they'll land up in Lebanon or they're going to come to Syria. So the north front is also opening up. There is also pressure on West Bank, because there is a Lions Den brigade, which generally, although West Bank has been more passive in resistance, they are also probably going to join. So it could be a three-dimensional, kind of conflict. And then in case US jumps in, there are chances that it could be, next Iran or maybe Turkey in some form, joining this. So I think it's very, very unfortunate, and the chances of escalation is going to expand. And there was another additional thing that Egypt and Jordan wanted to send, a relief convoy via the Rafah crossing, which is a very normal thing. And Israel then challenged them, if it comes, we are going to hit it. And I think it was then counterbalanced by the Jordanian king and the Egyptian leadership that, okay, you try and hit. So I think things are not very stable. Still, we are, I would say, in the evolving stage of initial phase of this war.
All right. If we are in the initial stages of this war, Agha, Iqrar, Haroon, don't you feel a parallel war is also going on social media? When you look at the social media, I was looking at a report that was made by an international media organization that had, I should say, a lot of remarks by so-called international analysts that were talking of annihilation of Palestine. It should be completely removed off the surface of the earth, things like that. Who gives anybody the right to talk in such inhumane values? Do you feel that crises such as these has rendered the inhumane side of the media, of the politics, of the politicians of the Western world more apparent?
First of all, let me answer the social media. Actually, social media is designed on hate speech. You cannot get clicks if you talk goody-goody or friendship. It is designed on hate speech. So hate speech is basically, you can say, the driving force behind that.
All right.
So whatever the people are, there is, where is the humanity left in the world? Have you seen the humanity? I have never seen for the last, 40 years. When there is P5 and one veto, and a veto power, you cannot say humanity lives in this whole world. We have seen this in Syria, we have seen this in Iraq, we have seen in Afghanistan, we are now watching it again and again and again in Gaza particularly. If you remember in 2014, Hamas had this volley of strikes on Israel, and then what happened? They directly hit the schools, and nobody,
51 days, 51 days.
You remember? So humanity is somewhere, it is a cliche now. And this is basically the day you can understand why a veto power and how a veto power can kill thousands and thousands of innocent people. Just imagine in the Security Council, there was only one vote, and this vote was the American vote. But the vote is there, so nothing can come of tangible in favor of Palestinians. So this is the world, and of course the social media, from where you start talking, social media is designed on hate, and this is the time of minting their money.
No, but no, it's not just that, it's also that we see the real faces of a lot of people that we thought were more or less humane.
They
and
are
now
not.
In the face of this crisis, their real face has emanated.
Omar, I tell you one thing, the world is divided in two parts, NATO and non-NATO. NATO, meaning by NATO and plus NATO, non-allied members also. So whenever there is something related with the Muslims, you will see a totally different face of so many so-called humanitarian vices. They are totally different, because a Muslim is dying, and whenever a child dies in Ukraine, you will see a total different reaction. So these are
there's hypocrisy when it comes to
of course, it is a blatant hypocrisy, and always Europe has two different, you can say faces. And one thing I just mentioned, you were talking about the strike on Syria. I am of the view that they would keep striking on Syria because they want to engage Iran directly over there.
This is what Iran has also said recently.
So they will keep doing it. And this is one thing we should appreciate. This is a historic telephonic conversation between the prince and the Iranian president.
Yes.
So this is, and look, Omar, The day it started, when I read the Saudi statement, the reaction, it was very, very positive, not calculated, very straight. We had been telling you if you will continue like that, the reaction would come, and the reaction is coming.
All right, let's talk of reactions. Let's talk about the Muslim world. Brigadier Waqar Hassan Khan, of course, Iqrar have pointed out to the telephonic conversation between the Iranian president and MBS. That is also a very important step. Then the OIC special meeting that has been called by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia as well to discuss this issue as well. How important does the role of the OIC become under these circumstances? Secondly, will the United Nations continue to be pertinent through organizations such as UNRWA as far as displacing the Palestinians, those who are in need, and those United Nations organizations that take care of the migrants or the refugees? Will they still continue be able to help the Palestinians?
Yeah, in terms of, I think, reaction from the Islamic world, the OIC, you can see it in three domains. One is public domain, which is basically statements and policy statements coming from the leadership or foreign offices. The other is what is the media in Islamic world projecting. Vis-a-vis, we'll also compare what is happening with the Western and Indian media, because now they are allied. And then third is what is the sentiment on the street. So because in terms of perception or the messaging, these three are all important. So I think the war has its own dynamics. I think when it started, people started stereotyping that it's going to be a short affair and probably this and that is going to basically happen. So I said that basically war drives its own narrative, it has its own momentum, and what you can maybe plan before the war, the first casualty. So the dynamics of war, because now I think we can call it war in terms of the forces which are involved. Initially it appeared that probably OIC was very, very careful, and they were coming up with measures because they were looking at the situation. But gradually now the pressure is building on the street. Also in the media, like Al Jazeera is now being told by Israel to shut its offices and leave, because Al Jazeera is, I would say, fighting the information war against 5-6 major channels like CNN, BBC, Fox, then you have France 24, DW, most of the West, and then comes the Godi media. You'll be surprised that Indian media today has more representatives or correspondents in Israel than some of the major countries who are interested.
Of course, there's a tilt towards Israel as far as India is concerned.
Yes. So they've, I think, decided, because they think that they can exploit the situation. They already had, I think, bad side in I think diplomatic row with Canada. One is of course the other is definitely Modi's chemistry with Netanyahu. The ideology that both follow. Basically, if the RSS follows the fascist ideology, the Zionist.
So many similarities between Palestine and Indian illegal.
And in terms of even methodology, if you look at the way they are pressing Muslims and minorities in India, even the Sikhs, it is very similar. Dozers, and then even look at occupied Kashmir is very similar to Gaza in terms of let's say how they are dealing with it. So I think in these three domains initially it appeared, but gradually I think when they saw how the war is opening, unfolding, I think members are now taking very clear stance. Like today we had a very strong statement from Pakistan's MOFA spokesperson on the Pakistani stance. Then we had as mentioned by Agha Sahab, the conversation between Iran and Saudi Arabia. So probably there is a common cause. Egypt, Jordan, I think Turkey had a very strong statements even against the US aircraft carrier.
Isn't Mr. Biden going to Jordan after Israel?
Maybe. I think if because these are very important countries. And if you look at the corridor game also, I'd just like to mention shortly. Basically the corridor was also politically conveying a message to the Palestinians that they are no stakeholders, nobody will bother them, nobody is bothered about them, and basically India, Middle East, Israel and Europe would develop, and then there will be definitely normalization of relations. But it was also affecting two shoulders. One was the Suez Canal of the Egypt. From $6 billion, CC has already taken it to closer to $20 billion a year by expansion. And then there is a corridor being conceived and I think developed by Turkey through Iraq, Turkey and Europe. So these two countries are economically affected by any corridor, bypassing or going through that. So there is also, I think, geoeconomics coming into it, how Egypt was reading that. So all told, I think Hamas is also read what is happening. And I'll just read out this statement by Mr. Marwan Bishara, is the writer. Al Jazeera correspondent. The Palestinians have made it clear today that they would rather fight on their feet for justice and freedom than die on their knees, which was happening, dying in humiliation and daily being dehumanized, and nobody, I think, bothered. So I think it's a strategy born out of, I would say, frustration, but definitely with objectives to bring in the
But Brigadier, what should be the strategy of the United Nations, of UNRWA under these circumstances? Will it be allowed to help the Palestinians?
I think UN has a very major role. When we look at the conflicts in Africa, wherever there have been such like situations, UN has come up, but definitely it then depends on the interests of the P5, how do they deal with it. If you look at the statements by the Secretary General himself, I think it was very strong. But as Agha mentioned, that there is a veto power, the 3 out of 5. So most probably, and also I think US and Israel was unable to get their resolution also passed for condemning Hamas. So Nikki Haley was running around, and I think China, Russia did not, and I think most of the non-permanent members abstained also. So even the UN is now divided. The globe is divided, UN, media, and there's a lot of polarization.
You see this polarization internationally, you see it on the media, you see it amongst leaders, you see it amongst regions. Is there some kind of solution that could be brought about, or will we see more of this aggravation in the coming days?
I mean, polarization suits everybody, and I don't. I'm pragmatic person, but I'm very realistic also. The time is very short for Gaza people. They cannot wait for only for beautiful words they could listen, because every time, even to just today, 452 children were died, and 278 women, including 21 pregnant, they had died. Every passing minute, the life is becoming more, fewer chance for them. So if you talk about the polarization is expanding, and in the presence of this veto power, I doubt they would get any relief, and until and unless OIC comes categorical. But still I have serious doubts, because I don't want to name one of very, very important member of OIC and GCC countries. It is standing categorically, openly, blatantly, nakedly with Israel. So how can you expect something very strong from OIC?
Because there is polarization, as you said, within the OIC
Omar, we should be very real. Pragmatic, this something else. But if you talk about the realism, realism is very clear. Palestinians are alone. They will remain alone. Your statement, my statement, government of Pakistan statement, or any other statement cannot provide them bread and butter and the water.
Exactly. What needs is action. What is needed is action, and action by the international community together.
Exactly.
Okay, which brings me to a very interesting point, Brigadier Sahab. Do you feel we need new alliances in this current day when we see polarization that is affecting crises such as what is happening in Palestine? Do you feel we might see new alliances emerging, new international bodies emerging that could benefit crises such as that is happening in Palestine, that could help the Palestinians? Secondly, international law violations, many have been committed by Israel under the garb of this whole crisis that is emanating in Palestine. Can the ICJ or other organizations be contacted in that regard?
Yeah, I think in terms of new alliances or new world order, already I think Russia-Ukraine war had split the world. If you look at look at the response by even Africa, China, and even Middle East, Turkey, in Russia, even India. In Russia-Ukraine war, there was a lot of pressure with us or against us. But by and large, like in terms of import exports, countries went with even Russia. So there was already a polarization, and generally the abhorrence against imperialism, which basically is more related to the Western colonies, was basically it came out. So it was already now this is brought in a new form of polarization, which is generally becoming West versus Islam. despite that it is restricted to Palestine and Israel, but is now becoming again, and there are a lot of calls even within India against political Islam, and there are a lot of hate speech taking place even in Europe. And as you mentioned, people who you couldn't expect, the liberals, even the Indian liberal media had to take, the cue and follow Modi, and they are, I think, all out to support. Last, I think we had some statement by Asaduddin Awesi yesterday. He had a press conference, and he was just trying to basically differentiate between the high-handedness of Israel and the resistance, but he was being questioned very harshly. So I think you are right that maybe gradually we find new alliances, and within OIC I think there should be a thought that enough is enough. And if you look at last 3 decades, in the garb of war and terror, entire MENA region was devastated. Look at what has happened to Libya, what happened to Syria, they are still recovering, Lebanon, and then you had Afghanistan and Iraq. And millions of people were actually, I would say, massacred. So maybe even Iran, Saudi rapprochement, although I would say facilitated by China and Pakistan, but I think they have also in the heart of their understood that conflict based on sectarian line is not serving anybody, and for economic reasons they could at least start let's say talking to each other. So that's why the call was there. So maybe, but we are still in the initial process, but then there was these corridors where basically overlapping interests.
What about the international law violations? What about the International Court of Justice?
Definitely, because I think Israel has been taken a number of times to these, I think, forums, but somehow one is that they were never acknowledged the ruling of these forums, and probably don't give I would say a damn, sorry to say. But also I think we should see what is happening in the Western capitals. There is also procession in favor of Palestinians and in favor of Israel, and there were clashes. So it means the general opinion as far as the youth is concerned, even I was surprised to see.
But does that matter? These processions, will they matter in the long run in changing the perspective of the world towards Israel and towards Palestine?
I think in the long run it does, because one is that we generally do stereotyping of black and white. Results don't come out immediately. But these are unprecedented things like in London, Australia, North America, and I was surprised to see it in Japan and South Korea. I would say they were even, I think, more procession than Pakistan. So I'm sure now the political parties are picking it up. So there is a need definitely to look into these things. Gradually, I think, because this is a time of social media, so things can be exposed. And this is one media which can bypass the mainstream media, so I think.
Okay, let's hope some kind of as you concerned. Of course, I saw Agha Iqrar Haroon nodding his head while you were saying a lot of things. He was saying that can't happen. You seem very pessimistic. I'd like to, before you give your opinion on what I asked Brigadier Sahab, I'd like to also understand. On the one hand, we have a lot of false allegations regarding Hamas and what it has done to the babies, killing the babies, and so many acts, and that have now been turned out to be false. They have been debunked by the media. On the other hand, you have got white phosphorus bombs that are being, Gaza is being bombed by Israel, and therein there is no hue and cry. I mean, there is even in the violence that emanates, there is a certain hypocrisy and there's certain targeting that is deliberately trying to change the world attitude towards what is actually happening in Palestine. What's your take on that?
First of all, let me mention, I am not pessimist. I am very practical and very realistic person. Whatever we have been watching since, decades, what about your Kashmir? You had been, and I had been crying, they are going for the, you can say, demographic change. They did it. We knew they are going to disintegrate Kashmir from the Kashmir cause and making it a union. They did it. They are raping the women there. They are killing the children there. Anybody has stopped them? Not at all.
Similarly,
exactly. No, I'm coming to there. They are killing, children every passing minute. Nobody would stop them. Because remember this thing. Only power and only, you can say, and I don't want to use the word, meaning by you have to fight yourself. Nobody would come to fight yourself. And let them fight their last fight. It may be the last fight, maybe the last war. Maybe they would eliminate the entire Gaza, complete population, but let them fight. Because nobody, we are only giving lip lip services for them for the last almost 6 decades. So this is the first time they would let them decide what they want. If they want to continue to be killed, let them be killed. If you cannot support them or cannot provide them water, you meaning by humanity, you meaning by the entire world, you meaning by the United Nations, you meaning by the United States, and you meaning by all your P5 countries.
All right. I think, we have said whatever could be said at this moment, and we are helpless, unfortunately, because we can't move, we can't help them directly. And the only way we can help them is through words, through trying to reach the people that we can across the world, through the narrative that needs to be pointed out as to what is actually happening in Palestine. Thank you very much to my 2 very eminent guests, Brigadier Waqar Hassan Khan Saab and Agha Iqrar Haroon Saab, to have joined us and to have highlighted the atrocities that are happening in Palestine as we speak, and the urgency of the world to help the Palestinians before, as a lot of people point out, towards Israel's intention to annihilate the Palestinians. And this, I feel, unfortunately, is what they want to do in the long run. Thank you very much to both of my guests who have joined us, to have talked to us on this very emotional and this very sensitive topic. Let's come to our third story, ladies and gentlemen, and that concerns Narendra Modi, and of course how the media and the journalists are being targeted by his government and are being labelled as traitors just because they are telling the truth about what the Indian government is doing. More in the following report.
The Narendra Modi government's expanding censorship regime is creating an uneven playing field by silencing criticism. Raids and arrests underlining that the latest episode marks a new low in terms of Muslim freedom of press under the Modi government. The arrest and charging of NewsClick editor-in-chief and another employee of the media outlet seemed driven by an impulse to scapegoat a media outlet and to bring about, therefore, a chilling effect on critical journalism. India also figured among the list of countries that blocked websites hosting political, social or religious content, deliberately disrupted ICT networks, used pro-government commentators to manipulate online discussions. According to Behind Bars Free Speech Collective study of a decade of journalist arrest in India, 154 journalists in India were arrested, detained, interrogated, and over 40% of these instances were in 2020. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his Hindu nationalist BJP have incorporated censorship, including the use of automated systems, into the country's legal framework. The information technology rules require large social media platforms to use AI-based moderation tools for broadly defined types of content, such as speech that could undermine public order, morality, or the country's sovereignty, integrity, and security. In a democracy, journalists are messengers of news and information. Silencing them will silence their reportage and commentary of important issues, and the democratic right of citizens to access information without fear is compromised.
Now let's talk about Narendra Modi's government and how he has been targeting media. Now, as far as the free speech is concerned, we've seen many an example of journalists being targeted, labelled as terrorists, labelled as anti-state. Arundhati Roy is one. She's been now implicated in an address that was made way back a couple of years back as far as Kashmir is concerned. The list goes on and on. A lot of journalists that have been put behind bars, those whose voices are being tried to, to be muted so that they cannot speak the truth as far as what is actually happening in India is concerned, or in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir is concerned. This report by Freedom House, a Washington DC based non-profit that is called Freedom on the Net 2023, talks about the repressive power of artificial intelligence and of course covering developments between June 22 and May 2023. It of course looked at internet freedom in 70 countries, including for 88% of the world's internet users. And what it says, I'd like to share with you. First, the quote-unquote Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his Hindu nationalist BJP have incorporated censorship, including the use of automated systems, into the country's legal frameworks. And of course, this is how they are trying to suppress the true voice of what is happening in India and the voice of a lot of people in India, whether they be Muslims or even Sikhs or Christians. We've been joined online by Abid Latif Sindhu, who is a senior analyst. Sindhu Saab, thank you very much to have joined us. When you look at India's ranking in the World Press Freedom Index from 161 to 180, does that surprise you?
No, I think it's not a matter of surprise. It is, I think, the trajectory which they have, they're journeying through since 2014, since the Modi has taken over the reins of the country. Actually, which you are mentioning is about a law which is Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, and also the Indian Penal Code, Section 153 and 295, which by using these three, laws as the tool, they are subjugating journalists of India, and they are trying to harass them, especially those journalists who are raising the voice of conscience, especially the public conscience, and particularly talking about the Kashmir. And the recently, we have seen that Adanta Roy, which has written many wonderful books, in which she has, she got famous because of the God of Small Things, and then she wrote a book, Azadi, The End of Imagination, and The Broken Republic. All these four books indicate that how the internal polity of Indian society, and particularly the internal the dynamics of the society, and the stability within the state has been collapsing over especially the last decade, or less than that, since the time that Modi has taken over. So this has really, this did not surprise me, but we, all of us, other those who are seeing the developments with a little keen eye, they were seeing this thing coming, over last few years.
All right, Sindhu Sahab, do you feel that this will have serious implications as far as press freedom is concerned? And do you feel that the people in India or abroad know the realities despite this curb on press freedom?
Yeah, people all over know the reality, and this has been already expressed by the Indian Journalists Union. This has also been expressed by the Press Council of India, the Indian Federation of Working Journalists, and other bodies. Almost all the press clubs of different Indian states which are very active in the internal politics, especially the municipal and the state political activities. So this is known to the people. This is known to the international community also, that now the Indian state, which is actually trying to suppress the right of freedom, they are even also, it is very strange that on one side Modi says that it is India is the mother of democracy, and try to give an impression to the West that
is a pluralistic country.
See, that is true. That is basically even the democracy has become autocratic democracy, in which there is only a systematic inclusion of those people who adhere to the rites and rituals of Hindutva are being projected, are being supported, and taken into the mainstream. Other people, whether it be from the Congress, the minorities, or other, scheduled caste, and people from other suppressed classes, they are being, by a very systematic maneuvering, they are being excluded even from the political activities of the state.
All right, Sindhu Sahib, in all of this, background, and this is not a new information as far as curbing of press freedom is concerned. It has been going on specifically since Narendra Modi's BJP government took power. But we also know how they have tried to curb the powers of international bodies such as the BBC as well. We all remember the BBC documentary that came out on Narendra Modi, and how the reaction came from the Indian side as a result of that. Do you feel other international press agencies are also now wary of talking about India as a result of this?
Yeah, I think that is definitely coming, because as you have already mentioned, that their ranking on the scale has reduced to 161 from 140, and even if it is coming also, traveling downwards. And recently, the Reporters Without Borders wants that the press freedom is in crisis in India, and the other body, international body of which looked after the freedom of expression, the journalist rights, and also related to these final elements of information and reaching out to the people. They are also harping since long that India as a society, particularly under this political dispensation of Hindutva and the right-wing BJP, has gone to a level where I think they are condemning it, maybe in a very tacit way right now, but this, the expression of condemning them wholeheartedly or openly, I think it's about to begin any time, particularly in a case once they have also been proved as a state which is also perpetrating terrorism through state measures, also trying to influence the press and influence the regional states of the region in which India is situated. They're as a state, the Indian state is now taking all measures to suppress not only the right of speech, the freedom of expression, but also the freedom of existence for all the regional small states and within the polities and communities which are residing inside the Indian borders and frontiers.
Sindhu Saab, you talked about Reporters Without Frontiers that has highlighted this curve on press freedom. Do you feel other press watchdogs are also going to highlight what is happening as far as press freedom is concerned in India? When you look at the journalists that are being charged under Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, the UAPA in India, of all acts, do you feel that there will be a reaction from important international journalistic bodies as a result of this?
Yeah, I think the reaction will come because we have seen on 3rd October only the 13 raids have been made on the houses and the workplaces of different journalists. Their laptops and mobile phones were seized, and they were made to agree to a sort of a agenda or I would say that they were made to terrorize them in a way that they should not express whatever they are trying to express, or they are trying to give an impression that the state of India is actually trying to, I would say that they are trying to suppress all type of freedom of expression, and they are trying to actually remove the dialogue from the Indian society. So all the international organizations which observe this, and particularly the organizations which deals with information, with press, and also the body which look through and monitor and supervise this, I think they are about to, and they are most likely object this in coming future.
All right. Thank you very much, Abid Latif Sindhu Saab, to have joined us, international affairs expert, Mr. Abid Latif Sindhu, joining us and talking to us about the curb on press freedom in India, and of course that is being highlighted by important international organizations like Reporters Without Frontiers and others as well, because of the way they are handling the journalists and of course labeling them terrorists and so on and so forth. Nothing new there, nothing that surprises us either. Let's come to our last three stories very quickly. The first on the Pakistan Army that has secured silver medal at the Cambrian Patrol in Wales in the United Kingdom. This is of course a competition that was held between the 6th and the 12th of October this year in a field of 113 teams, including 38 international contingents. That also included the United Kingdom. The Pakistani team under the leadership of Lieutenant Awais Usman from the 57 Punjab Regiment displayed exceptional performance, and of course the silver medal is a testament to that. The 67 Punjab Regiment that has been established in the year 1972 holds numerous accolades that includes 1 Sitara-e-Basalat, 7 Tamgha-e-Basalat awards for exceptional operational performances. So of course it doesn't come as a surprise either, their performance here at this patrol. Next, Titan debris. We all know about what happened to Titan. It imploded, included 2 people that were of Pakistani origin, Also OceanGate CEO, Stockton Rush French diver Paul-Henri Negelot, British billionaire Hamish Harding, Pakistani businessman Shehzada Dawood, this is what I was referring to, and his teenage son Suleiman Dawood, who had all died in this implosion. Now this Titan submersible expert who had predicted that was likely to have collapsed in milliseconds has been recovered in some parts of them have been recovered, and apparently there is some human debris also as far as that is concerned. They will of course be making tests on it to ascertain what was the real reason, how what happened could have happened, and of course we'll be sharing the details with you as and when we get those as well. Finally, let's come to the universe. It's so interesting to know what kinds of life could have emanated in other parts of the universe or still continues to exist. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with new story segments that pertain to us, you and Pakistan. Till then, Allah Hafiz.